Before we begin, let me ask you something. If you had to fight for humanity's freedom against an unbeatable alien warrior, would you pick up a weapon? Or would you fight with your bare hands? One man made that choice, and his decision will echo across the stars. Subscribe if you're ready to see why humans are the galaxy's apex predators. Now, let's enter the arena. Part 1. The sentence. The Galactic Tribunal chamber stretched 3 kilometers in diameter, its crystalline walls refracting the light of a dozen suns. 10,000 beings from across the spiral arm filled the observation tiers, their collective silence more deafening than any roar. At the chamber's heart, suspended in a gravitational field, floated the accused. Commander James Reeves of Earth hung motionless in the containment sphere, his gray prison uniform torn at the shoulder, dried blood crusting his temple. He didn't struggle. Humans had learned that lesson quickly when they'd first made contact 5 years ago. The universe was far older, far more powerful, and far less forgiving than humanity had ever imagined. High Magistrate Venter rose from the judicial platform, his 12-meter frame casting shadows across the arena floor. His species, the Crix, had ruled the Galactic Council for 3,000 years. Their word was law across 47 systems. James Reeves of Earth. Venter's voice resonated through translation implants in every skull. You stand accused of the murder of Ambassador Krelix of the Sovereign Hive, violation of the Treaty of First Contact, and crimes against the established order of the Galactic Compact. How do you answer? James met the magistrate's 6 eyes without flinching. Guilty of killing Krelix, not guilty of murder, and damn sure not guilty of violating any treaty when Earth never agreed to become a slave world. A ripple of shock moved through the crowd. One did not speak to High Magistrate Venter with such defiance, not if one wished to keep breathing. Venter's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Humanity was offered a choice upon first contact: join the Compact as a protectorate world under Hive supervision, or face classification as a presentient species and forced evolutionary guidance. Your world's representatives chose protectorate status. Representatives your people chose, James said, not ones we elected. The distinction is irrelevant. Venter gestured, and holographic images materialized around the chamber. They showed a Hive ship burning in space, Ambassador Krelix's body twisted in the vacuum, his atmospheric suit breached by what the forensics called primitive kinetic weapons. You boarded a diplomatic vessel and murdered an ambassador. The penalty is execution by combat in the arena of judgment. Do you have anything to say before sentencing? James smiled, and something in that expression made even Venter pause. Yeah, I invoke the right of Sarkesh. The chamber erupted. 10,000 voices rose in a cacophony of shock, outrage, and disbelief. Venter's advisors swarmed around him, their voices urgent. The magistrate raised a massive hand for silence. Impossible. The right of Sarkesh is reserved for citizens of the Compact. You are a protectorate, not a full member. Check your own law, James said. Article 7, subsection 42 of the Compact Charter. Any being capable of invoking the right in the high tongue may claim it, regardless of origin. I claim Sarkesh. I claim the right to face my accuser's chosen champion in single combat, and I claim the right to fight unarmed. Venter's translator implant must have malfunctioned. Repeat that last part. Unarmed, James said clearly. No weapons, no armor, just me. Part 2. The choice. In the preparation chamber beneath the arena, James sat alone on a stone bench that had been carved for beings 3 times his size. His feet didn't touch the floor. The room smelled of ozone and fear, thousands of years of it soaked into the walls. The door irised open. A small, amphibious creature shuffled in, its translator collar blinking. I am Kiptal, Arena Master. I must explain what you have done, human. I know what I've done. No, Kiptal's throat sac inflated nervously. You do not. In 12,000 years of compact history, only 17 beings have invoked Sarkesh. 3 survived. None were protectorate species. None fought unarmed. He produced a holographic display. The Hive has chosen their champion, Warlord Krexta. He has killed 214 opponents in arena combat. The hologram showed a creature from nightmares. 4 meters of chitinous armor, 4 arms each ending in bone blades, mandibles that could bite through ship hull plating. I can still arm you, Kiptol pleaded. Plasma lance, neural disruptor, even primitive chemical propellant weapons if you prefer. The law allows. No weapons, James repeated. Then you will die, and humanity will remain a protectorate forever. Is that what you want? James looked at the small creature. Can I tell you something, Kiptol, about humans? The arena master's membranes flickered. If you wish. We're not the strongest species. We're not the smartest, not the fastest, not the most advanced. When your people found us, we'd barely left our own star system. We had chemical rockets and nuclear fission and computers that would make your translator collar look like magic. James stood, pacing the oversized room. But you know what we had that nobody else seems to have? What? We had 10,000 years of killing each other. James's voice went cold. Every species out here, they had their wars, sure. But then they found the Compact, or the Compact found them, and the wars stopped. The Krix enforced peace. No conflicts, no weapons development, no evolution through competition. Just order. Peace is preferable to chaos, Kiptol said, but his voice wavered. Is it? Because from where I'm standing, peace looks a lot like surrender. Earth never stopped fighting. When the Hive showed up and told us we were too primitive to govern ourselves, you know what we did? James laughed bitterly. Every nation, every faction, every group that had been at each other's throats for centuries, we unified in about 6 hours. Because if there's one thing humans are really, really good at, it's recognizing a threat. Then, why did your representatives accept protectorate status? They didn't. James met the arena master's eyes. The people the Hive negotiated with were politicians they'd bought or threatened. The real Earth government, what's left of it, has been fighting a resistance war for 5 years. And today, in front of every species in the Compact, I'm going to show them why you should have left us alone. Kiptol was silent for a long moment. Then, you're not trying to survive this, are you? You're trying to make a statement. Wrong, James said. I'm trying to do both. Part 3. The Arena. The gates rose with a grinding of ancient mechanisms. James walked forward into blinding light and the roar of 10,000 beings baying for blood. The arena floor was gray sand mixed with the pulverized bones of champions past. It stretched 200 meters across, surrounded by walls too high and too smooth to climb. On the opposite side, Warlord Krexta emerged from his gate. Even at this distance, James could see the Hive warrior's muscles rippling beneath his exoskeleton. The crowd's roar intensified. High Magistrate Venter's voice boomed across the arena. The challenge has been issued and accepted. Combat will continue until one combatant yields or dies. The victor's people shall be granted full Compact citizenship with all rights and privileges. The defeated's people shall remain under Hive supervision for eternity, their fate sealed by this combat. A pause. Combatants, are you prepared? For the Hive, Krexta's battle cry shook the arena walls. James said nothing. He simply began walking forward, hands empty at his sides. The crowd's noise faltered. Confusion rippled through the observation tiers. Where was the human's weapon? Where was his armor? Was this some kind of trick? Krexta charged. 400 kilograms of chitin and rage crossed the arena in seconds. Those bone blades could punch through starship bulkheads. James had perhaps 5 heartbeats to live. He didn't run. He walked forward steady and calm, watching the Hive warrior approach, analyzing, calculating, remembering. At the last possible instant, James moved. He didn't dodge dramatically. He shifted his weight, turned his shoulders, and let Krexta's leading blade pass centimeters from his chest. The Hive warrior's momentum carried him past, and James's hand snapped out, not to strike, but to grab. His fingers found a ridge in the exoskeleton behind Krexta's primary shoulder joint. He pulled himself up onto the warrior's back. The crowd gasped. Krexta roared and spun, all four arms reaching back to tear the human free. But James was already moving, scrambling up the warrior's carapace like he'd practiced on training dummies 1,000 times. He reached the neck ridge and locked his legs around it. "Get off," Krexta thrashed, smashing his body against the arena wall. The impact should have pulverized James. Instead, the human rode it out, his grip never loosening. James's hands found what he was looking for, the soft gaps in the exoskeleton where the head segment met the neck. Every species had them. Every armor had weaknesses. Humans had spent millennia learning to exploit both. His thumbs pressed into the nerve cluster there. Krexta's screech changed pitch. Pain. Actual pain from the invincible Hive warrior. "You see that?" James shouted to the crowd, though he had no translator in the arena. "You see where I'm touching? Every single one of you has a spot like this. A weak point. A place where evolution couldn't give you perfect armor." He pressed harder. Krexta collapsed to his knees. "Humans have weak points too. We're fragile. We die easy. But you know what we spent 10,000 years learning? How to find everyone else's weak points faster than they could find ours." Part 4. The lesson. Krexta threw himself backward, trying to crush James beneath his weight. The human rolled clear at the last instant, came up in a crouch, and immediately darted back in. This time he targeted the warrior's legs. A sweep. A basic, elementary leg sweep that human children learned in martial arts classes. Krexta toppled. The crowd had gone completely silent. This wasn't possible. Hive warriors were undefeated in arena combat. They were engineered for war, bred for battle, augmented with the Hive's advanced technology. They were perfect. And a human was dismantling one with nothing but his bare hands, and 10,000 years of accumulated violence. James didn't let up. The moment Krexta hit the ground, he was on him, attacking the joints, the sensory organs, every weak point human military intelligence had identified in 5 years of desperate resistance. 5 years of learning to fight enemies who were stronger, faster, better armed. 5 years of learning to win anyway. Krexta's blade arm came up in a desperate swing. James caught the wrist at the joint, twisted, and used the warrior's own strength against him. The sickening crack echoed through the silent arena. The Hive warrior's blade arm hung useless. "You want to know the real reason I fought unarmed?" James circled his wounded opponent. "Because the moment I picked up one of your weapons, I'd be accepting that your technology is superior, that your way of war is better than ours." He shook his head. "But it's not. You've had peace for so long, you forgot what real war looks like." Krexta lunged again, fighting with the desperation of a champion who finally understood he was outmatched. James met the charge head-on. No dodging this time. He caught 2 of the Hive warrior's arms, planted his feet, and stopped the charge through pure technique and leverage. Then he swept the legs again. Krexta crashed down, and James followed him to the ground. What happened next was brutal, efficient, and devastating. Chokeholds humanity had refined over centuries, joint locks that ignored the differences in physiology, pressure points that existed in any nerve-based biology. Within 30 seconds, Warlord Krexta, champion of the Hive, victor of 214 arena combats, stopped moving. James held the chokehold for a slow count of 10, then released it. He stood, chest heaving, blood running from a dozen shallow cuts. The Hive warrior remained on the ground, alive but unconscious. The arena stayed silent. James turned to face High Magistrate Venter. "I invoke the victor's right. I demand to address the compact." Even Venter looked shaken. Protocol demanded he grant the request. His voice barely registered through the translation network. The victor's right is granted. Speak. James's voice rang out, steady despite his exhaustion. Every species here, every member of the Compact, you've been told the same lie, that humanity is primitive, that we're too violent to be trusted with full citizenship, that we need supervision and control. He gestured to Krexta's still form. But what you just saw wasn't primitive violence. It was refined violence, focused, disciplined, the product of thousands of generations learning not just how to fight, but how to win. He could see the crowd now, thousands of beings from dozens of species, all watching with expressions that ranged from horror to fascination. The Crix and the Hive, they want you to believe that peace comes from submission. That order requires control. But they're wrong. Real strength, real peace, comes from mutual respect, from knowing that everyone at the table is dangerous enough to be worth respecting. James met Venter's eyes directly. Humanity doesn't want to conquer anyone. We don't want to rule the Compact. We just want what every sentient species deserves, the right to determine our own fate. And today, I proved that we're willing to fight for that right, with or without weapons, against any odds. He spread his arms wide. So here's my offer to the Compact. Grant Earth full citizenship, withdraw the Hive occupation, and we'll share everything we've learned. Every combat technique, every tactical doctrine, every hard lesson we've bought with blood. Because the universe is a dangerous place, and I have a feeling the Compact could use a species that remembers how to fight. Part 5. The verdict. The Galactic Tribunal reconvened within the hour. James stood in a medical field, while nanite healers sealed his wounds, watching the delegates argue with an intensity he'd never seen from the usually orderly Compact. Kiptol appeared beside him. You've created chaos, human. The Compact hasn't seen this kind of disorder in millennia. Good, James said. A little chaos keeps people honest. The Hive is demanding your execution despite the combat's outcome. They claim you fought dishonorably, that using techniques specifically designed to exploit weakness violates the spirit of Sarkesh. The small arena master's throat sac pulsed with what might have been amusement. But 17 other species have filed briefs supporting your citizenship claim. They argue that if the Hive's champion couldn't defeat you, humanity has proven their right to self-determination. And what does Venter think? The High Magistrate is conflicted. You've exposed something he's always known but never wanted to acknowledge, that the Compact's peace is built on the threat of Crix power, and you just demonstrated that power can be overcome. The tribunal chamber's doors opened. A bailiff beckoned. James straightened his torn uniform and walked inside. The atmosphere had changed. Before, the assembled species had watched him with contempt or curiosity. Now he saw something else in their eyes: calculation, fear, respect. High Magistrate Venter stood at his platform, and for the first time since James had met him, the towering Crix looked uncertain. Commander James Reeves, Venter began, you have won your combat, the law is clear, but your victory has raised questions that cannot be ignored. The magistrate's 6 eyes swept across the chamber. For 3,000 years, the Crix have maintained order through strength. We believed this was the only way to ensure peace, but you have demonstrated something we had forgotten, that there are many kinds of strength. Venter's next words sent a shockwave through the chamber. The tribunal has voted. Earth is granted full citizenship in the Galactic Compact, effective immediately. All Hive occupation forces will withdraw within one standard cycle. Humanity will have full rights to self-governance, trade, and diplomatic relations. The Hive delegation erupted in protest. Venter's voice boomed over them. Silence! The law has spoken. The combat was fair. The victor's claim is just. But the magistrate wasn't finished. However, Commander Reeves, your victory comes with a price. Humanity must accept a seat on the Compact Security Council. You will share your combat knowledge with those species who request it. and you will help us prepare for a truth we've been hiding." James frowned. "What truth?" Venter manipulated a holographic display. The image showed the galactic spiral, and beyond it, in the dark space between galaxies, something moved. Vast structures, each larger than star systems, drifting toward the compact's borders. "The reason the Crix enforced peace so absolutely," Venter said quietly. "The reason we crushed any species that showed too much aggression. We believed if the compact remained united and peaceful, if we avoided drawing attention, they might pass us by." "They," James whispered. "The harvesters, ancient beings from before this galaxy formed. They awakened 600 years ago and they're coming. They strip entire sectors of life, harvesting bioenergy to fuel their impossible technologies. The Crix have been preparing, but in our preparation, we forgot how to fight." Venter looked directly at James. "We need warriors again, Commander. We need beings who remember how to win against impossible odds." James stared at the approaching armada of cosmic horrors, and despite everything, he smiled. "How long do we have?" 5 years, perhaps 6. "Then I guess we'd better get started." James looked around at the assembled species. Prey animals made complacent by millennia of peace, warriors made soft by generations without war, and one species of humans who'd never stopped being the dangerous, adaptable, viciously creative survivors who'd clawed their way to the top of their world's food chain. "First lesson," James announced to the chamber. "Everyone here is about to learn why humanity never developed a word for surrender that we actually meant. Because when we're backed into a corner, when the odds are impossible, when everyone says we should give up, that's when we're at our most dangerous." He turned back to Venter. "Humanity accepts its seat on the Security Council. We'll train your people, we'll share our knowledge, and when those harvesters arrive," his smile turned sharp, "they're going to learn the same lesson the Hive just learned, the hard way." "And what lesson is that?" Venter asked. "That the most dangerous thing in the universe isn't the biggest predator or the most advanced technology." James's eyes gleamed with the same ancestral fire that had driven his species to conquer their own world and reach for the stars despite every obstacle. "It's a species that's had 10,000 years to perfect the art of killing things stronger than themselves. Welcome to humanity's specialty, Magistrate. We call it asymmetric warfare. And when we're done training your people, when we've taught the Compact how to fight like humans fight," James glanced back at the hologram of the approaching threat, "those harvesters are going to learn that there are predators, and then there are Earth's apex predators who evolved by being too stubborn to die." High Magistrate Venter looked at the human who had walked into the arena unarmed and defeated a champion through nothing but skill, determination, and the accumulated violence of 10,000 years of human history. For the first time in his 3-century lifespan, the High Magistrate felt something he'd thought his species had evolved beyond. Hope. The galaxy was about to learn what Earth already knew, that the most dangerous weapon ever created wasn't forged from metal or energy. It was forged from necessity, refined through adversity, and wielded by a species that had spent its entire existence learning one simple truth: survival isn't about being the strongest. It's about being too damn mean to quit. And humanity was just getting started.